So after almost 6 years of doing NoFap, I want to make this video to help anybody who's struggling and who keeps relapsing, because I know how it feels when you want to free yourself, you want to change your life, but you keep falling back into the same things over and over again, and then you find yourself in the same place years later. All right, so this is for y'all, and I guess this is something for my past self, because if I could go back in time, these are the things that I would tell myself when I was starting the whole NoFap thing. All right, so there's 7 key things that have allowed me to not relapse, that have allowed me to free myself and be able to make this into a lifestyle. Okay, I'm gonna put them down in the comments down below, so that way you guys can know them right off the bat instead of having to watch the entire video. But I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna try to keep the video as short as possible, so just bear with me. And I'm gonna be looking down because I wrote them down, so just so you know. So number 1 is to make a decision. And I know it sounds dumb, because you're probably thinking to yourself, dude, I'm doing it. Like, I'm doing NoFap, I've already decided. But I'm gonna tell you right now, like, in my experience, it wasn't until I 100% decided that this is what I wanted to do, that I wanted to free myself, that I wanted to live a better life. It wasn't until I 100% decided that I was able to stop relapsing, because before that, I was kind of half in, half out. It's like a part of me wanted to be free, a part of me wanted to stop watching porn, but another part of me still wanted to. Another part of me still wanted to have this pleasure and to self-gratify myself, right? Because it was something that was so ingrained into my life that I was just halfway in, halfway out. And the entire time I thought, oh, okay, I've already made the decision. But it wasn't until I hit rock bottom and I was like, all right, it's either yes or no. It's either I'm doing it, I'm not. Which one is it? Am I freeing myself, or am I gonna stay in this? And once I made that decision, that's when things started to change. All right, so number 1, make a decision and be 100% in that decision. All right. So number 2 is understanding urges. You have to understand that you really only experience urges because of 3 reasons. Number 1 is, I was gonna say familiarity, but repetitiveness. You know, if you're doing the same thing over and over in your life, if it's very repetitive, you're gonna feel urges. All right? If you're bored, you're gonna feel urges. And the last one, if you're in a low state, you're gonna feel urges. So that means if you're sad, if you're angry, if you're anxious, if you're nervous, these states will cause you to want to go back to watching porn, because that was a coping mechanism. You know, it's something that you develop over time. If you have an issue to begin with, you probably developed it because it helped you to get away from whatever problems you were experiencing. At least that's how it was in my experience. You know, I was abused as a kid, and that had a lot of mental effects on me. And, you know, the abuse kept going until I was like 18 years old. So, you know, I actively use that as an escape, as a coping mechanism. So maybe that might be the case for you, maybe it might not, but understand that if you're bored, you're gonna have an urge. If you're in a low state, you're gonna have an urge. And if things are familiar, or if things are repetitive, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Even if you change your life, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, if it becomes too repetitive, you will go into that state where you have urges. All right, so you have to understand that's where the urges come from. And if you can shift your life in a way where you're not in those states, at least minimally, then you'll feel minimal urges. All right, but understand this is a long game here. It's all about changing your life. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is kind of touching base on what we just said. You have to change your life. And when I say this, I mean like change your routine, change your habits. This is what worked for me, because when I was trying to do NoFap in the beginning, I kept doing the same things over and over and over again. I would essentially have the same routine, but just cut out pornography and masturbation. And I just expected to be able to free myself. I expected to get over this issue like it was nothing. But I'm telling you right now, if you have an issue to begin with, you probably need to change a lot of other things in your life. If you go, let's say, in your room at night and you're on your phone, maybe scrolling social media, maybe looking some things up, maybe on YouTube, just watching some videos, and then you would end up going and watching porn. If you cut out porn but continue that same thing, it's only a matter of time before that cycle repeats itself. Because your behavior, or our behavior in general, is a cycle. It's a pattern. It repeats itself over and over and over and over again. So if you're doing something and you try to just change one little tiny thing and continue the same thing, it's gonna be different. It's not gonna be the same as what it's used to. And if you're not making the full conscious effort to break that cycle, the cycle is just gonna do everything possible to get back to where it was. We're always gonna try to go back to our patterns of behavior. So it's all about changing the patterns of behavior, changing your routine, changing your lifestyle, in order for you to really start to, feel the benefits and feel free from pornography and not have urges. All right, so that's number 3. And number 4 is touching base again with number 2 and number 3 is self-improvement. You can't go on this journey and just expect to just change this thing and have it be the end all be all and have it just make your life this amazing thing. Like, sure, it's gonna help. If you stop this vice, if you stop something that's negatively impacting your life, of course it's gonna help to an extent. But I realized early on that you need to do the self-improvement. It wasn't until I started reading, I started meditating, I started exercising more, I started to really grow myself as an individual, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. It wasn't until I started doing that self-improvement that I started to really feel the changes in my life, and that I started to not experience as many urges. All right, so take that into consideration. You want to change yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself. Understand that we are not born the best version of ourselves. We need to make ourselves the best version of ourselves. There's a quote that says, women are born, men are made. Hey, you do with that what you will, all right? But that's number 4, self-improvement. It really wasn't until I started doing all those things that I started to not feel so inclined to go back, all right? So number 5 is dedication of time. And what this means is we always have to be dedicated to something. And I didn't realize that in the beginning, which kind of led me to either 1, being in a low state, or 2, being bored. And anytime I was in those states, I was always having urges, and I would always fall back and relapse and relapse and relapse. And it wasn't until I realized, as a dude, I need purpose, right? I need something to dedicate my time to. So I started with dedicating my time to exercise. It helped tremendously. It started giving me that clarity and that freedom from the urges. And when you don't have urges, you're pretty much free. You feel free. You just kind of living your life, right? But it wasn't until I would stop, dedicating my time to the gym, that the urges would start creeping back in. So it's like I realized real quick that you have to dedicate your time to something, whether that be exercise, whether that be your true purpose, if you know what that is, whether that be reading, whether that be learning a new language, playing an instrument, whatever it is, you have to dedicate your time to it. And it's like the saying says, you know, idle hands are the devil's workshop. You believe what you want to believe, but it just makes sense. All right. So number 6 is redirection. Whenever urges are coming your way, you see, there was a big time that I was kind of struggling with it because I didn't know if I should redirect my thoughts or if I should stay with the urge and be able to just let it pass. All right. So what I realized over time is that during the beginning stages, that's the time where you want to redirect immediately. I'm talking about anytime the thought comes in, hey, no thanks, redirect it and do something else. All right, that's what I found to work most effectively. And even long term, sometimes you'll get to the point where you can stay with an urge and you can let it pass, but ultimately it doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to fully play out, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, yeah, that could have benefits in and of itself, but if you think about it, if you have thoughts of relapse, then it's highly likely that you're going to relapse. If you have thoughts of watching porn, it's highly likely that you're going to go and watch porn. Doesn't matter if you're 1 month in, 2 months in, 1 year, 2 years in, it's just what it is. You know, what ends up happening in our head, we tend to take action on that. So something that I realized over time here, man, is that redirection is key. So anytime those thoughts come in, hey, no thanks, I'm good, right? You can say that, you don't have to say that, but it's literally that, man. Like, I don't know how else to put it, because, you know, I've had moments in the beginning where I would try to stay with the urge, and yeah, I would get past it, but then it would just kind of leave this lingering effect of like, oh, let's think about that again. Let's go into that again and then get past it. And then it's like I became almost like hooked on that, and it was only a matter of time before I would just fall back. All right, so that's something that you really got to pay attention to. And then the last one here, number 7, it's the most important one, y'all. Just live your life. All right, that's the biggest issue I had when I came onto this whole thing, is that I would think to myself, oh, let me heal up for X amount of time and then I'll be good. Let me heal up for X amount of time, then I'll go hang out with friends and I'll be the best version of myself. And I'll be more funny, I'll be more charismatic, I'll be more in the present. All right, like, let me do this and then I can be with a girl. You know, I always was putting these blocks and these limits on myself as to like what I could do in my life, but all that did was just keep me stuck in a cycle where it's like, oh, 2 weeks and then I'll feel good, then I'll do that, but then it's like you get to 2 weeks and then you end up falling back, and then you have to keep going in the cycle. I remember one time I literally stopped hanging out with friends for almost like 6 months because I kept telling myself I would hang out with them after I reached a month. And I'm telling y'all, like, I kept falling, I kept failing. And 6 months passed and I realized, damn, I haven't hung out with my friends. There was a time where I had a girl and we were, literally, I told myself I'm not gonna have sex until I reach 3 months. Like, come on, dude. Like, if you're in a relationship, it's gonna happen. You know, there's no point to withhold that. You just gotta learn, all right, well, if I release, I tend to have more urges. There's like a chaser effect. But if I can hold, if I can practice semen retention while I'm doing this, while I'm having sex, hey, benefits remain. No chaser effect. And you feel great. You still keep going. All right, so it's just, man, it's just living your life. All right. Understand that it's all about, okay, I'm deciding that I want to do NoFap. Deciding I don't want this in my life anymore. I want to be free. I'm gonna make the changes that I need to make, and I'm just gonna live my life. All right, I'm gonna do that and then just drop it. Just leave it. Leave it. That's it. You don't have to keep looking back like, oh, I'm X amount of days in, or oh, how do I feel today? Dude, every day is a different day. Every time you wake up, it's a new day, a new life. Like, seize it, bro. Seize it. That's all I can say is that in my experience, when I finally started to live my life, I realized that all those limits, all those holds that I was giving myself, it was just all mental, and it was keeping me stuck in this cycle of relapsing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it wasn't until I implemented everything and then finally just lived my life that I'm capable of being free.